What's going on, Flight Sim Crew? It's your pilot in command, Ryan, and today we're going to be talking about the various parts of the airplane: the power plant, the wings, landing gear, the fuselage, the empennage, and the horizontal and vertical stabilizers. What I've highlighted here, that is the power plant, and this is the fuselage. Contains the cabin and where the pilot sits, all the controls. Next we have the landing gear, and these are the wings. The wings obviously generate lift for the aircraft, and on each end is an aileron, which you can see moving right now, and a right aileron moving. I'll go into more detail about how turns work later. And then those are the flaps, and the flaps are used upon landing to increase drag and allow the plane to come down at a slower, safer speed. Overall, every aircraft is going to contain these components: a power plant, wings, fuselage, empennage, vertical and horizontal stabilizers, and landing gear. Some exceptions could be certain military aircraft do not have a rudder, so to speak. Here you can see the horizontal stabilizer, and at the end of it is the elevator, and as the elevator moves up and down, that will pitch the plane up and down so that the plane can climb in altitude or descend in altitude. Here is the rudder, and rudder goes left and right. This induces yaw in the aircraft, and the way in which physics works on an airplane: when a plane is in a turn, it has a natural tendency to yaw and causes what's called an uncoordinated turn. So the rudder is used to counter that natural yawing effect and keep the plane in a controlled, coordinated turn. So the power plant for many different aircrafts can be different. In this one, the Cessna 172, it's got a four-cylinder engine. It's called the nose wheel, and most aircraft are set up in this configuration known as a tricycle configuration, where you have two main wheels in the middle and then one front wheel. The main wheels are designed in a way to support the load of landing, and the front wheel should touch down last and has a little kind of shock absorber in order to kind of smoothly get the airplane down, and it gives plenty of clearance so that the prop doesn't get too close to the ground. Probably the most trickiest thing for a pilot to learn is how to do a smooth landing. So here you can see a picture of the elevator, and the elevators again deflect the aircraft's lift, or deflect the tail of the aircraft, which changes the lift factor so that the plane can either ascend, climb in altitude, or descend, lose altitude. It would be more difficult to see, but most airplanes have a trim tab on that elevator, which allows for just more stable flight when you are in a straight and level cruise configuration. This aircraft here is slightly different. Still all the same parts, except this is what we'd call a tail dragger. So instead of having a front nose wheel, it has the wheel in the back of the airplane. It's an older, more traditional design. There are some differences when landing and taking off this style of an airplane that the pilot has to be aware of, and I believe it requires a separate, if not a certification, an instructor at least has to fly with you enough that they will basically endorse that you are competent to fly a tail dragger. Sadly, they do have a tendency to tip over. This one here is an amphibious aircraft. This is one of my favorites, to be quite honest. This is also referred to as a flying boat. As you can see, it is made for both land and sea. So it has retractable landing gear, so when the landing gear is deployed, it can land on a paved runway just like any other aircraft. But when the gear is retracted, it has the ability to land on water. And that is pretty awesome in my opinion. I would love to be qualified on an amphibious aircraft. You can see here, so seaplanes, amphibious aircraft, and flying boats. They take off and land in water. And Oftentimes these are used in very remote locations, so up in Alaska or places where the a paved runway might be somewhat hard to come by, but they are amazing aircraft, and I'm somewhat envious of any pilots that I know that own one of these, because I would love to have one. So lastly here, I'm going to show you a Cessna 172 that's been outfitted with pontoons. Pontoons are another form of landing gear that allows the aircraft to land on both the pavement and on the water. So the pontoons are a little bit different. They do induce more drag, so the takeoff speed is going to be higher, and the stall speed is probably going to be a little sooner on the aircraft. But with that being said, I mean, it's a really cool modification, and if there was a good excuse to have one of these, I'd love to find that excuse. So, very last thing I'm going to do is, I've never attempted to land an amphibious aircraft at all in a simulator. So, let's see how I do here with absolutely zero training whatsoever. I'm going to just try to go as soft as I can, and it looks like I've made contact with the water, and she's doing, that's called porpoising, and porpoising is not very good. If that normally happens, it would necessitate a go around, but as you can see, the plane was safely brought to a stop, and now I get to have the fun of taxiing the airplane as a boat. So that pretty much does it for the major portions of an airplane. So again, those are the power plant, which houses the engine, the wings, which generate lift, the landing gear, which allows the airplane to come down safely, the fuselage, which houses the pilot, the crew, and the flight controls, the empennage, which is the tail portion basically, that also has the horizontal and vertical stabilizer. And those components are what make up any airplane. So folks, I hope if you stuck around, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm working on my video editing a little bit, so please bear with me if the video edits are not perfect. I'm learning this, but if you stuck around for this much of the video, thank you so much. Hopefully, if you like this type of content, you'll think about subscribing to the channel, or give it a like at least. The YouTube algorithm loves that. And feel free to leave a comment. You can give me a criticism or ask a question. I'm down for either. And hopefully, I will see you all in the next video.